thanks to listen to your favorite podcast, you should watch this. Imagine sitting through a grueling 6-week murder trial. The forensic experts have spoken, the jury decides, the judge's gavel falls, double life sentence, and the case is closed.
Yeah, you really think that's the absolute end of it?
Exactly. I mean, our justice system is supposed to be, well, like a clean room in a microchip factory, right? It's this highly controlled, totally sterile environment.
Right, where no outside contamination can get in at all.
Right. It doesn't matter if you have the best prosecutors and the sharpest defense attorneys in the world. If one person walks into that room with a single speck of dust on their shoe, that entire multi-million-dollar batch is contaminated.
And it's completely ruined.
Yeah. And today, we're looking at a story where the person who allegedly tracked in that dust wasn't some surprise witness or a brilliant lawyer. It was, the friendly courtroom clerk who brought the jury their lunch.
And that kind of contamination completely shatters the illusion of absolute certainty that we project onto our courts. It proves the clean room really isn't as secure as we desperately want it to be.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring a massive disruption in one of the most famous true crime cases in modern American history. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts detailing Netflix's groundbreaking new release, Instadocs' Alex Murdaugh, Unconvicted.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at how this all unfolded.
It really is. But our mission for you today isn't just to rehash the grisly details of a crime you've probably already seen on the evening news. We want to examine Netflix's radical new rapid response documentary format, and more importantly, look at the deeply human fallout of a compromised justice system.
Right, because this documentary shifts our focus away from the crime scene and puts it onto the fragile machinery of the courtroom itself. Glad to be here to help synthesize this.
I'm so glad you're here, because this film really forces us to ask how the system operates under the crushing weight of a modern media spectacle.
Exactly, rather than just obsessing over the crime itself for the 100th time.
So, if this documentary format is built for speed, what exactly was the inciting incident that forced Netflix to scramble their cameras in the first place? Before we even dissect the shocking legal reversal this film covers, we have to talk about how this story is being delivered to you.
It really is a huge shift in how we consume these stories.
It is, because the format itself is literally making television history. We are talking about Netflix's new Instadocs format. Okay, let's unpack this. Traditional documentaries are, well, they're like reading a perfectly edited history book, right?
Oh, absolutely. You usually wait years for the definitive take.
Right, they take years to produce, they have the benefit of hindsight, and they feel very finalized. But this new format feels like getting an urgent FaceTime call from the middle of a breaking news event.
And that urgency is the entire foundation of the project. It's designed to mirror the speed at which we actually consume news now.
But wait, let's stop there. Because when I hear 30-minute rapid response documentary, my immediate thought is, isn't that just tabloid journalism by another name?
Oh, I totally see why you think that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could just be a glorified TikTok recap.
Exactly. We are living in an era of 8-part, meticulously researched true crime docuseries. But the team behind this is a heavyweight roster. You've got executive producers Josh Turangel and Connor Schell, along with showrunner Steve Yacchino.
Right. These are serious, established documentary filmmakers.
Yeah, and they explicitly designed this to be a compact 30-minute experience to capture breaking events in near real time. They want to meet viewers exactly where they are, which is, scrolling on their phones and reacting to headlines.
Which is a massive departure from Netflix's previous coverage of this exact case.
Mm.
I mean, think about Murdaugh Murders a Southern Scandal from back in 2023.
Oh, yeah, that was a very deep retrospective look. So how do they avoid this new format just looking cheap? Like, how can a show maintain actual documentary-level depth when it's moving at the speed of a Twitter trend?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the format isn't actually just about speed for the sake of speed. It's about capturing history, as the creators put it, at the moment it matters most.
Ah, I like that. At the moment it matters most.
Exactly. When you wait 3 years to release a traditional documentary, the emotional temperature of the public has completely cooled down. The broader cultural context has shifted.
That makes a lot of sense. You kind of lose that raw, visceral reaction.
Right. So by releasing this right as the South Carolina Supreme Court made its decision on May 13th to overturn Alex Murdaugh's 2023 double murder conviction, the documentary taps directly into the current cultural feeling of unresolved tension.
It doesn't pretend to have all the answers because, well, society doesn't have all the answers yet.
Exactly. It perfectly mirrors the unsettled reality of the moment.
And that unresolved tension is the perfect pivot to the actual breaking news that triggered this whole Instadocs experiment. A seismic disruption in a case that the entire public thought was closed forever.
Yeah, everyone thought this was completely done and dusted.
Let's give a quick baseline for anyone who hasn't been following every single update. In 2023, Alex Murdaugh, this once powerful attorney from a very prominent Lowcountry legal dynasty, was convicted of murdering his wife and son.
Right, it was a massive, highly publicized trial.
And he was handed 2 consecutive life sentences. The gavel banged, the clean room was sealed.
Or so we all assumed, right?
Here's where it gets really interesting. When we hear about overturned murder convictions, especially in massive high-profile cases like this, we've been conditioned by movies and podcasts to expect a certain kind of plot twist.
Like a surprise alibi or some secret DNA evidence from a lab.
Exactly. You expect someone coming out of the woodwork to save the day. But here, you have a sprawling 6-week trial. We're talking fierce forensic disputes, incredibly complex deep dives into financial crimes. The court even took the jury on a literal field trip to the Moselle estate crime scene.
Yeah, the scale of that trial was just staggering.
And all of that massive legal machinery was undone by alleged protocol breaches from a courtroom clerk.
Yes, the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill.
Which immediately brings up the obvious mechanical question. How does a court clerk even have the opportunity to single-handedly influence a jury in a trial of this magnitude? We picture the judge being the one in total control.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it exposes the absolute fragility of the justice system. The clerk is actually the one coordinating the jury's meals, their bathroom breaks, their transportation to and from the hotel.
Wow, so they're just constantly with the jury behind the scenes.
Exactly. They have this unprecedented, unmonitored access to the jury in a way even the presiding judge doesn't. And think about the chain of custody concept.
Right, like we apply it rigorously to physical evidence, a bloody shirt, a weapon. If someone unauthorized touches that evidence, it gets thrown out of court.
Right. But this case proves we must also apply a strict chain of custody to the jurors' minds. If a clerk tampers with that mental chain of custody by whispering opinions or altering their environment, the whole trial is legally contaminated.
That is such a fascinating way to frame it. A mental chain of custody. And we need to be strictly impartial here for you listening. These are allegations brought forward by Murdaugh's defense team.
Yes, very important to note that they are alleged actions.
They allege that Becky Hill improperly influenced the jurors during the trial, making comments that could have biased them against the defendant. And it's crucial to note that she was previously seen as this friendly, highly helpful presence in the courtroom.
Yeah, she was almost a beloved figure during the actual trial.
But these claims were deemed serious enough by the South Carolina Supreme Court on May 13th to completely overturn the conviction and order a new trial. In legal terms, they decided to vacate the conviction.
Basically, they erased the scoreboard.
Yeah.
It's as if those guilty verdicts never even happened.
Exactly. And what stands out is that the documentary treats this not as some sensational tabloid scandal, but as a severe cautionary tale about that exact contamination you just described.
Because when that judicial clean room is compromised, the fallout isn't just a headache for the lawyers. It's devastating for the everyday people trapped inside it.
And this is where the 30-minute format really proves its worth, I think. Instead of getting bogged down in endless legal briefs and dry appellate court filings, the filmmakers immediately ground the viewer in the human collateral of this legal chaos.
Yeah, they focus on the actual citizens who got swept up in this mess.
Right. They introduce us to Craig Moyer. And the visual contrast the directors use here is so striking. Moyer is this soft-spoken, bearded guy, and the documentary films him just tending to his chickens on his rural property.
It's a very peaceful, quiet scene.
It is. It's so removed from the screaming national headlines of the Murdaugh trial. Moyer actually served on the original jury. And he tells the camera that he believed Murdaugh was guilty, quoting here, without a reasonable doubt.
Which, as we know, is the absolute highest legal threshold for a conviction.
Exactly. He genuinely thought the verdict he helped deliver brought closure to this horrible tragedy. But now, because of a procedural error he had absolutely nothing to do with, that certainty has been completely ripped away from him.
And the documentary powerfully juxtaposes Moyer's shattered sense of closure with the experience of another juror, Myra Crosby, who was juror number 785.
Oh man, her story is wild and frankly terrifying if you've ever received a jury summons.
Her story highlights a totally different kind of system failure.
It really does. She was dismissed from the panel just hours before they were supposed to begin deliberations. And why? Because of an anonymous email claiming she had discussed the case publicly.
A claim that she strongly denies, by the way.
Right. Which begs the question, why is an unverified anonymous email enough to dismiss a juror who has sat through 6 weeks of grueling, traumatic testimony?
Well, it really comes down to extreme risk management by the court. Judges are terrified of giving the defense any valid grounds for an appeal later on.
So they just overreact to be safe.
Basically, yes. If there is even a whiff of impropriety, even something as flimsy as an unverified email, they will often err on the side of caution and remove the juror to protect the perceived integrity of the trial.
But in doing so, they completely invalidate the immense civic sacrifice that Citizen just made. She describes the deeply humiliating experience of being abruptly removed like that.
Yeah, it's incredibly painful to watch her talk about it.
So I want to pose this to you, listener, right now. If you are called for jury duty, you assume you're entering a sterile, protected environment. You're doing your civic duty, often at great personal disruption.
You think you're just doing the right thing for your community.
Exactly. But looking at Moyer and Crosby, what does it do to an everyday person to be thrust into a national spotlight, subjected to these intense, behind-the-scenes pressures, and then have their integrity or their final judgment thrown into total question by the very system they were trying to serve?
It's a deeply traumatizing experience,
Right.
and that dual juror structure provides a necessary human anchor to the documentary.
It makes it so much more relatable than just talking about legal theory.
Right. It reminds us that behind every sensational true crime headline and every dry legal technicality are ordinary citizens who never asked to be part of a national saga. They are grappling with immense doubt and a profound lack of closure.
Yeah, the film isn't ultimately about the appellate process. It's about the psychological burden placed on everyday people who are forced to navigate a system that suddenly seems broken.
And the damage doesn't stop at the jury box. The emotional toll on Craig Moyer and Myra Crosby radiates outward into a much broader conversation about the entire community.
Right, because does a controversy like this permanently damage the public's trust in the Colleton County courts?
Yeah.
Alex Murdaugh is now awaiting a new trial, and the documentary brings in some serious voices to discuss exactly that.
Like South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, for example.
Yes, and the creators of Trial Watchers, too. For those who aren't familiar, Trial Watchers are essentially independent legal accountability groups that monitor courtrooms to ensure fairness and transparency.
And they're all looking very closely to the systemic implications here.
Definitely. There's a report from the Greenville News cited in our sources that specifically points out the lingering and painful impacts on the community whose lives were touched by this case.
The institutional fallout is just immense. When the public watches a trial of this magnitude get overturned, not because of the evidence of the crime, but because of the alleged behavior of the court's own staff, it breeds deep, lasting cynicism.
Yeah, it makes you question the whole process.
Exactly. It makes everyday people wonder, well, if this level of contamination can happen in a trial with the entire world watching, what happens in the everyday, low-profile trials that no one is paying attention to?
So what does this all mean? The documentary doesn't neatly tie everything up with a bow. It doesn't hand us an answer key or tell us how to fix the courts.
No, it really doesn't try to solve the problem for us.
Instead, it frames the exact questions that are going to dictate the next chapter of this legal saga. It's almost like the documentary itself is a living organism, adapting to the chaos of the justice system in real time.
This raises an important question about how we consume true crime as a society. What the creators of Instadocs have managed to capture is a story that feels uniquely alive, unfinished, urgent, and unsettling.
Urgent and unsettling is the perfect way to describe it.
It challenges the listener to reconsider what they actually know about the machinery of justice. I mean, we all watched the trial. We all saw the dramatic clips on social media.
Right. We all felt like we had the full picture of what happened.
But this documentary forces us to look past the theatrical performance of the courtroom and critically examine the hidden, unmonitored pressures behind the scenes.
It's a masterclass in looking past the headlines. Today, we've walked through how Netflix's Instadocs experiment took a familiar, heavily covered murder saga and completely reframed it into a real-time examination.
They really shifted the spotlight away from the grisly details.
Yeah, they moved it to the fragile dynamics of guilt and innocence, focusing on the clerks, the jurors, and the very machinery of justice. We saw how a 30-minute rapid response format can capture the cultural anxiety of an overturned verdict in real time.
Catching history as it happens, like they said.
Exactly. We explored the shocking allegations surrounding Becky Hill and that fascinating concept of a mental chain of custody. And most importantly, we looked at the devastating human toll on ordinary people like Craig Moyer and Myra Crosby, whose lives were upended by a system they thought they could trust.
It's a powerful reminder that justice isn't a static, infallible event. It's an ongoing, highly vulnerable human process that requires constant vigilance.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We started by comparing the justice system to a clean room in a microchip factory, assuming it was sealed tight from the outside world.
Right, the perfect sterile environment.
But if the intense national spotlight of a media spectacle can potentially compromise the courtroom officials tasked with maintaining order, are we risking the very fairness of the justice system simply by turning our courtrooms into true crime content mills?
That is a really unsettling thought to leave on.
It's something to think about the next time a high-profile trial takes over your feed. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narrative, and we'll see you next time.